Hi everyone, it's Greg. Welcome back to my channel. Thanks for joining. Today we're looking at the beautiful city of Charleston, South Carolina. We're going to dive into a little bit of the historic sites. I'll show you some museums, look at Sullivans Island. But before we dive in, just a note that as usual, these are my own opinions and my own ideas of places that I've gone. This is all my own video. I'm not promoting anything. I'm not getting paid for anything. Just providing you some information. Just a little sample of what was there. Charleston is a pretty nice southern US city, by the way. I was there in December, so some of the video it looks a little brown, but that's just because it's the middle of the winter time. Usually it's quite green. It was also around 60 degrees Fahrenheit there, so the weather was pretty decent, not hot, not too cold. It was a little rainy a couple of days, but nothing terrible. Of course, summertime is going to be a lot warmer. Keep that in mind. So let's get to it. Charleston was founded in 1670, and it was pretty wealthy, but not from cotton like many southern cities that you might think of. It was actually rice that generated a whole lot of fortunes in the Charleston area. It did fall on hard times, though, after the Civil War, and it stayed relatively stagnant for about 100 years, which is why so many of the buildings in the historic downtown area are still standing, and it was pretty much because there was nothing else that could come along to replace them. I will say that one of the most popular ways to see the city, especially if you're there for the first time, is by taking one of the horse and carriage rides around town.
Traffic jam. Come on, Bill.
No, don't be
You always cause the trouble. That's the most. He causes more trouble. He can't drive worth a hoot.
That's true.
And when he gets his dinner tonight, he'll get 2 pints of Yingling. So, at 9:58 p.m., the largest earthquake to ever hit the East Coast happened right here. Chicks lean you left. Now it's going to be the time to take a picture of it, because in a little bit we're going to get on the other side. And what's he going to do? There you go.
Several companies that offer this. You may need to check and see if you can get tickets in advance because they do sell out, so you'll want to get on board to do something like that. So after that, next stop was at the Charleston Museum, which is the oldest museum in the U.S. It was founded in 1773, so it's actually older than the United States of America, but they date back to the colonial period, the American Revolution, the Civil War. You learn a lot about the history of Charleston and the southeastern U.S. Also, you can buy at the same time for that museum a ticket to the Joseph Manigualt house, which is literally right across the street from the museum. You can just walk across. And that house is very historic. It was built in 1803. All right, next up, it was off to the South Carolina Aquarium, which is right on the waterfront. It has a really great bunch of exhibits. South Carolina does a lot in terms of conservation and is very focused on environmental concerns, especially when it comes to the water. And so they have reptile displays, they have all kinds of local fish on display. They also have a kind of an interesting, if you're interested in the sea turtle rescue program, they have a whole exhibit on that, and you can also see where that takes place and some of the other activities that the aquarium provides. Now, we were there actually at around Christmas time, so these pictures, you can see a lot of Christmas lights, which is kind of cool. You can go there at night and they have it all decorated. Not quite as exciting maybe from a light standpoint in the summertime. Now, just down the road from where the aquarium is actually the International African American Museum, and unfortunately it was closed the day that I was there. But I did walk around the outside, and it's got some really interesting architecture, got some interesting spaces to see, and obviously the exhibits, if you can get in, are well worth taking a look at. It's actually built on the site where typically enslaved people were taken off the ships. Also, by the way, the same spot is where I got on a harbor tour boat, and that's a great way to see Charleston from the water. I didn't take the ferry to Fort Sumter, but you can go there as well if you wanted to walk around the fort itself. It's kind of like on a little island out in the harbor, but you can get a glimpse of it from the harbor tour that I was on. And by the way, I got to see a cruise ship that was departing right at that very time, setting out for the Bahamas, actually. Next up is the USS Yorktown aircraft carrier, and that's a museum ship. It's an aircraft carrier from just or around World War II and afterwards. There's also at the same dock a World War II Navy destroyer, the USS Laffey, that you can explore as well. There's lots of airplanes and exhibits. There's a display on the grounds of Vietnam War recreations and military equipment and whatnot. So it's really well worth it if you're interested in American military history, just to see what it was like to be on board some of those ships. Okay, our last stop is going to be a short drive from Charleston. You go across the Arthur Ravenel Bridge and you get to Sullivans Island. We stopped at a little place right on the beach where we could stay parked and then go have our meal and then go out onto the beach for a walk. A little bit cold to go swimming, but it was quite beautiful, that whole area. So that was a little bit of Charleston. Certainly not everything, but a few highlights. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know if you have any opinions, ideas, suggestions in the comments. And of course, subscribe if you want to see more. Thanks, guys.